The Taliban is working hard to convince the international community that it has no ambitions beyond Afghanistan, and it's drastically changed over the past 2 decades. But returning to our interview with Professor Michael Semple, he told us that he doesn't believe the claims. He says the group's first priority will be to consolidate power and snuff out any attempts at resistance.
They will be pushing for international legitimacy and ultimately recognition. However, there's another set of priorities that they clearly haven't factored in, or else they wouldn't have pushed ahead with this military offensive across Afghanistan, which is feeding the population. Afghanistan has more than 30 million people. There is an economic crisis which is basically underreported. There was anyway a drought before we had this military offensive. Millions of Afghans are dependent directly or indirectly upon livelihoods coming from the Afghan government or the donors working in the country. That is all suddenly at a halt. Prices in many places have doubled through the disruption associated with the military campaign. Money is drying up. People will, within days, people are going to be feeling hungry and going to the Taliban and say, OK, you insisted on taking the country. How are you going to feed us?
America's departure has, of course, left a void. Who do you think is likely to fill it?
Well, in the first place, Pakistan is going to feel buoyed about its ability to fill that void because they both have relations with, they have relations with the United States, they have relations with China, and they have a deep relationship with the Taliban. Some of the securocrats in Islamabad, as far as they're concerned, they've swept the board, and now they can step into the shoes that they have been vacated by the Americans. I think this is going to be difficult for many of the other regional powers to stomach. Already the Iranians are pushing back and saying that the story is not over until there's a broad-based government inside Afghanistan. Many of the other regional powers like Russia, the Central Asian states, have quietly established relations with the Taliban in the recent years as a sort of an insurance policy against this day. They will be wanting to see just how aggressive or dangerous this Taliban administration is, and I think that many people are they're going to be sort of pushed on the one hand to accept that this is a de facto power. You have to deal with it if you're in the neighborhood, but it's also going to be very difficult to stomach. They're going to have to take a stance on whether or not to support the armed resistance to the Taliban. And I think that China faces a really big question in this. Do they sort of take the advice given to them by the Pakistani security sector, saying the Taliban are basically ours, we can work with them through establishing the relationship with the Taliban, we'll have better security in Afghanistan than was offered under the Western-backed government, a chance to extend the old CPEC project in Pakistan. They bring Afghanistan decisively into the Belt and Road, exploit the mineral resources. That's the prospect which the Pakistan establishment is going to be offering to China. But on the other hand, China's got to be concerned that this Taliban government offers many problems for us, not least the fact that the Taliban movement, which has taken over, has a long history of harboring Uyghur militants. And the last time that the Taliban were in power in 2001, as pressure from the Americans started to grow, China sent a delegation to Kabul to talk with the Taliban, seeing if the Taliban were prepared to be flexible on the issue of clamping down on Uyghur militants in the country in return for Chinese assistance. At that stage, the answer was no. The Taliban were not prepared to budge. I'm sure that this time round, China will be looking to see if the Taliban are prepared to be more flexible in dealing with them and then open up the prospect of China working in cooperation with Pakistan to become a leading power inside Afghanistan.